According to recent leaks, Assassin's Creed Mirage has been delayed and is releasing in August of 2023. As we know, the game was originally stated to be releasing in Q1 of 2023, sometime between January and April. Delays can mean a lot of different things with game development, and I think this can mean a lot of things for Assassin's Creed Mirage. Now, although this leak seems fairly credible, and usually when Assassin's Creed games leak in one way or another, they usually almost are true, I will still say take this with a pinch of salt. At the end of the day, leaks are just that. They're leaks. They're just information given by an insider, by a certain person that could be fake. With that being said, from what I've read, it does seem pretty credible, and I do think it's probably likely true. But again, I'm going to cover myself by saying take this with a pinch of salt. So according to this leak, Assassin's Creed Mirage was delayed twice internally by the developers. For those of you that are unaware, when a game has been internally delayed, it basically just means the developers, the people working on the game have said, okay, we're gonna push back the release date even though we haven't announced a release date yet, and there's no need to tell the public we're delaying it because we haven't really given a release date yet anyway, but from the release date we have in our head, yeah, we've pushed it back. That's basically what an internal delay is. Now, as I said, this can mean a lot of different things for Assassin's Creed Mirage. Delays are usually due to circumstances such as the game not performing the way they kind of sought out for it to perform, and they think, okay, well, we actually need to put a bit more work into this, so let's push it back. Or perhaps maybe a developer who has to delay a game is working on too many projects at once, and it's actually more overwhelming than they originally thought, so they push it back. Perhaps a company developing a game is losing investors, losing money, so they think, you know what, we need more time to make more money, to make the game as good as it can be. With game development within any company, internal delays can mean a lot of different things. They can be good, they can be bad. So in today's video, now I've told you guys the news, it's going to reportedly be delayed. I'm going to give my thoughts on whether I think this is a good thing, a bad thing, what I think it means for Ubisoft and Assassin's Creed Mirage. And of course, if you guys want to let me know in the comments your own thoughts on this, if you agree, disagree, if you want to add to anything I've said and we can build upon that in the comments, let me know and we'll get discussion going. Regardless, let's get into my thoughts. So on one hand, you have the, well, you know, delays are a good thing really, because they get more time on the game. The more time and work they put into that game, the better the game's going to be. A prime example for that is Cyberpunk 2077. If the game had literally maybe 2 more years development time, I think it could have been one of the most defining games of our generation. I think it would be iconic. I think it will be remembered for many years. Maybe not to the extent, but similarly to Skyrim. Or maybe to, of course, same developer, The Witcher 3. I played through Cyberpunk and I personally loved it, but yes, there was a lot of bugs, there was a lot of glitches, it was an unpolished game. I still found it amazing. I still found it iconic. I still found it an immersive experience unlike anything I've ever experienced. So it is such a shame that the game got rushed out, it was unfinished, they released it on last gen when it clearly was not up to the task for running a game such as Cyberpunk 2077, and what I mean is PS4 and Xbox One were clearly way underpowered and it would bottleneck the systems for what the game was, for the hardware it should have been running on, such as new gen and PC. There was such a warranted, I may add you, focus on the game's lack of polish, lack of professionalism in the release. So much so that people would just focus, as I said, on that aspect of the game and not on the game and what it did itself. As you may know, the game has now basically been polished up, been finished, and the release we've had in the last few months is what it should have been 2 years ago. But now it's done, it's looking good, it's playing good, and people are starting to appreciate it for what it is. Anyway, what I'm getting at is that release was probably one of the worst releases in gaming history, in my opinion. If that game was delayed by a long time, yeah, 2 years, I think, then it could have been amazing, it would have been received amazingly, and again, I think by now, or maybe in a year or two, it would be regarded as one of the most iconic games in gaming. So a delay in that regard would have been the best thing, you know? Yeah, we want to play the game, but we don't want to play the game if it's going to be shit, if it's going to be full of bugs, if it's going to be unpolished. I'd much rather wait for a game longer and that game then be as good as it can be. Now, on the other hand, you have the whole aspect of, well, you know, if they announce a game to be released on a certain date, the professional thing to do is to stick to that date and to work in a way that you can then release it at that date. If you're unsure or you're uncertain whether it can come out at that time or not, then you shouldn't announce a release date to start with. I partially understand that argument. However, there's always unforeseen things that can happen within the gaming industry, within development. And to be honest, that's not just with games, that's with anything. That's with movies, that's with writing a book, that's with creating clothes, that's with anything. Unforeseen things can happen that can lead to delays. I understand that, and I think most people do. But again, I want to cover all aspects of my thoughts on this, why a delay could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, and again, what it means. Now, I do want to talk about what it means for Ubisoft in general and Assassin's Creed Mirage. Why has there been a delay? Two, bear in mind. Could this be that Ubisoft haven't made anywhere near as much progress as they thought they would have by now? Would that make a lot of sense seeing we haven't seen any gameplay? Perhaps. Or perhaps not. Perhaps it's a coincidence. Has the work on Assassin's Creed Infinity and those games such as AC Codename Red and Hexe, has that taken too much time away from Mirage? I wouldn't say so, really, because obviously we know those games are being developed by different teams within Ubisoft, so you wouldn't think that would make much of a difference to development time with AC Mirage. Maybe there's been less of a budget, so there's had to be cutbacks on content, which I hope that's not the case, because I don't want the game to come out with a lack of features and an execution that does not match the concept. The concept being a good Assassin's Creed game that is a return to the series. I know a lot of us have been painstakingly, gruelingly waiting for this release of the new Assassin's Creed game. Finally, a game we can play that we can say, you know what, this was Assassin's Creed. Okay, yeah, of course it's yet to be seen, but what we think it might be like and what we've been alluded to by the developers, yeah, they could be getting it wrong, they could be lying, or they could just be kind of so unaware of what made Assassin's Creed good in the first place that they think it's an Assassin's Creed game when really the foundations for one isn't really there still. That's another topic for another video, and I've talked about that before. I know we've been waiting for this game, and I know August seems like so far away, because it is quite far away, to be honest, isn't it? What is it, 9 months away? If this means the game's going to be better than if it was to release in the beginning of the year, that's fine. That's fine. At the end of the day, yeah, of course, I personally want to be making content about the game as soon as I can, but it's not just about me, it's about everyone, and at the end of the day, it's about making a good game. I'd rather wait longer to get a game that's going to perform a lot better. You see games that get in development hell by certain companies, you know, they decide to release a game by a certain time, they run into a load of roadblocks, a load of problems, and it takes years for the game to come out, and then sometimes the games don't even come out. Now, don't worry, I don't think AC Mirage is going to get cancelled at this point, you know, if it's coming out in less than a year, then it's got to be fairly close to being finished, as you can expect. Of course, I don't think the game is probably finished, maybe it's 85 to 90% finished, I don't know, that is pure speculation. So I don't think it's going to be cancelled or anything like that, I wouldn't worry. Of course, when you hear internal delays, you hear red sirens, you hear alarm, you think, oh my god, it's get delayed, that can't be a good thing, that means it's having issues with development, that means there's going to be problems with the game, that means there's bugs, that means there's stuff going on. I wouldn't worry too much. Of course, it's a possibility, but I wouldn't worry. Now, the reason I say this with confidence is because just the other week, less than a week ago, Assassin's Creed Valhalla released its last final chapter update, and in that was a lot of story stuff alluding to what Assassin's Creed Mirage's story, modern day at least, is going to be. If they were concerned that the game might not release, there's no way they'd release a last chapter alluding to the next game. Also, they wouldn't have even announced the game if they thought it was going to get cancelled. At the end of the day, think what you will about Ubisoft, but they are one of the biggest gaming companies in the industry, and yes, they can be maybe, in certain people's opinions, unprofessional in the way of microtransactions, in the way of bad stories, etc, etc. That's up to people's own interpretation. I know they have a level of professionalism, to a degree, I will say to a degree, because obviously misconduct which they were accused of in the last recent years is not professional, but when it comes to releasing things, when it comes to PR, when it comes to marketing, they have the utmost professionalism, I'm sure. And if they had a shed of doubt in the development of this game, it would not be announced when it was, trust me. Or don't trust me, actually. I don't want to say that and then it gets cancelled, so don't trust me. Just my opinion, speculation, yeah. I don't think anyone's really worrying about that, are they? But again, I want to cover all grounds, all bases. Overall, I think, you know, it's not much of a big deal. I don't think they're running into development hell. I think probably they've just run into a few roadblocks, or maybe they've got a better idea of where they want to take development of the game. They thought, you know what, we'll just allow a couple more months to just kind of add the things we want to add. We'll make the game as good as we can possibly make it, and if that means it releases in August instead of April or March, then so be it, you know, it's going to be a better experience. Now, the last thing I will say is, if they really are trying to make amends with us, the fans that have been fans and been around from the first game, from the second game, around then, they might really be thinking, you know what, we cannot cut corners like we did maybe with Odyssey, like we did with Valhalla. We need to make this game a solid Assassin's Creed game that is not a compromisation of the series. Never compromise the creed. They even say that in Assassin's Creed. They've probably thought about this and thought, you know what, let's not compromise the creed. We don't want bugs. We don't want people saying, you know what, this feature wasn't here when you kind of alluded it to be. Oh, the parkour's not as good as what it was in the older games. You know what, this game is shit. We don't want people to say that because we're going to lose more faith in customers. We might lose more investors potentially, and those long-term fans will disappear. There's only so many times you can let somebody down until they do not bother with you again. Quick side note, I say do not, but sometimes I say it too fast. It sounds like I say do not, and I said do not, mate. I'm sorry about that. Moving on. Of course, they have so many more fans. You know, the AC community is so divided these days. You've got on one hand people that love the newer games such as Odyssey, Origins, and Valhalla and say those are the best. And then you've got the other side of the community that I kind of lean towards more, which is the older games were much better for this reason and that reason, such as story, such as characters. It wasn't just that made those games better in my opinion. It was a lot more than that, but I'm not going to go into that in this video. It's so divided, and I think Ubisoft want to merge that gap, you know? They want to get that divide and bring it into one a little bit more. In my opinion, that's again speculation. Overall, I wouldn't worry too much, but again, that's my opinion, and I could be wrong, I don't know. But I'm not too worried, so if you want to go off what I'm saying, which you shouldn't do completely, but if you want to go off what I'm saying, don't worry too much. I think Assassin's Creed Mirage could be amazing. I think it really could. I think the potential is somewhat there. But I also think Assassin's Creed Mirage could be awful. I think the potential for that is also there. So we will see, time will tell, and press the subscribe button if you enjoyed this video, I guess. But I will leave that one up to you. As I said, let me know in the comments your thoughts on this. Let's get a discussion going and build that AC community. I love you guys. Make the father of understanding guidance. I will see you soon. Goodbye.